Welcome to the Lights Out podcast. This is Chris Lights Out Lytle, and this is our journey to document the history of mixed martial arts. I have brought with me my friend, the MMA detective Mike Davis, and together we will preserve the history and hear some great stories from the world in the era of the no-holds-barred. Thank you and enjoy.
We have a special guest all the way from South Africa, possibly the country's greatest athlete, and somebody that's a legend within the ADCC and sumo circles, along with powerlifting. This gentleman right here, Mark Robinson. Mark, welcome to the Lights Out podcast.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having me on your show.
So you're one of those names, you're one of those names that kind of pop up on certain records or certain, like when you're kind of researching other people. You're one of those names that pop up and there's not a lot about you online. Like there is some stuff, but it's very little as compared to what you've accomplished in your athletic career. Are you aware of that?
No, not really follow social media at all.
Okay, good. I wish I could say the same thing. So Mark, you're from South Africa. You had a phenomenal run in ADCC. We're going to touch on your ADCC career as well as some of your sumo. But why don't we start from the beginning? You're South African. What was it like being an athlete growing up through the ranks in South Africa with all of the political turmoil?
Well, as you know, it was during the apartheid time that I grew up, unfortunately. So we were not allowed to compete internationally at world championships, at Olympics, or at any international level. We were only allowed to compete local level. So that's unfortunately how the era I grew up in South Africa. My grandfather came from England and he pioneered judo in South Africa. So I started judo at a very young age, at 5 years old, and obviously progressed through the ranks and fought in competitions, but only locally. I went to the army. I did my national service for 2 years, and we did a tour, kind of illegal tour, unofficial tour. And we toured all over Europe. We fought in Germany. I fought the Olympic gold, bronze medalist in Germany. So, I got a lot of experience from that.
When you went up against the Olympic bronze medalist in Germany, how did you do against him?
No, it wasn't in Germany. They brought a team out here. So we had an unofficial test series in South Africa. And in the final test series at the University of Johannesburg, I beat him in the final matchup, which was deciding which team won that particular test. So it was awesome.
So you beat a bronze medalist in judo and you were not allowed to compete?
Correct.
Oh. Wow. Yeah, 1982, you were the South African judo champion. Your father actually was quite the badass as well.
Yeah, him and Stan Schmidt pioneered karate, JKR, the style of karate called JKA in South Africa. And he's the highest graded Westerner in his style of karate currently. He's still alive. He's turning 88 this year. So it's quite a story.
Wow. So in 1994, South Africa, you were finally allowed to compete in the Olympics.
Yes.
You guys were given a green light. What was the feeling and sentiment like on the team, as well as your preparation?
Well, look, I think it was, we were all very excited to be able to compete once again. We were a little bit naive in terms of, because we've been isolated for that length of time. I think we were all naive as to what the standard was, what the requirement was to be competitive at that level. So there was the head of the amateur wrestling federation. He trained at my facility out at a health club, and he trained there. And he said to me, they had a Russian team that came out to compete against our national team, again unofficially. And one of the guys there got me to go and stay in Russia at the Army Sports Club, and I trained there. And Michael Mamashvili, he was one of the coaches, and he was 3 times Olympic gold medalist in Greco-Roman wrestling. So it was an awesome experience for me, and I realized that these guys train twice a day, 7 days a week, and that's the requirement to enter or compete at that level. And we certainly weren't. We were training twice a week socially. So that was where we were. That was where we were at that point in time. But anyway, judo wasn't unified, so they couldn't send a team to that particular, the 94, the first Olympic Games that we were allowed to compete in. So that put play to that, and that's when I started my amateur wrestling career.
So you started your amateur wrestling career at an incredibly late period in life, considerably speaking, with the competition that you went up against.
Yeah, but you say that, but all the same principles apply. It's about breaking balance, using someone's weight against them and strength against them. So it's very similar. All the wrestling styles and grappling styles are similar in that regard. So I had a good base, so I learned very quickly. Obviously now it's without a gi, so I did mainly Greco-Roman, which was more suited to my style. And yeah, obviously I'd come from a powerlifting base. I powerlifted from 21 years old and ultimately won the World Championships in Pescara, Italy in 1990. So yeah, I did strongman competitions and all that. So when I was invited, and they didn't allow me to go to the Olympic Games, I was invited to the African Sumo Wrestling Championships, which I won, and I qualified to compete in the World Championships in Japan that year.
Wait, Mark. Did you have a single day of sumo practice prior to entering into this competition?
No. They just put this giant nappy on me and said, off you go. So that was a basic rule. You either push him out the ring, or any body part besides the soles of your feet that touches the floor, you're the winner. So, that was...
And here's... Your uniform can be fit inside of a little Ziploc bag too. This is what you're going to be wearing.
Yeah, correct. Not underwear required.
You're kind of covering your microphone occasionally. It's kind of coming in muffled. No, it's okay. All right. So you're a freak athlete. We've established that. And
well, it's not about being a freak athlete. For me, they asked Casey Stoner once, who was a world GP champion, motorbike, and they said, what did he think about talent? So he said, hard work beats talent if talent doesn't work hard. So I guess it's about motivation and talent. And hard work, should I say, that gets you where you want to be in life. Anyone can achieve anything. You look at these fighters in the UFC, guys like Volkanovski, who really is a normal average chap, and he's worked exceptionally hard and achieved amazing things. We've got a South African currently who is the middleweight UFC champion, Dricus du Plessis.
Yeah, du Plessis.
He comes and works out with me sometimes. I give him my 5 cents worth, and he's an attribute to that very slogan. He's a hard worker, and he's achieved the top of the sport. Amazing.
Yes, yeah. When people talk about du Plessis, I always mention, well, there was a world champion in combat sports prior to him.
Yeah.
And it's as legit of a tournament as you're going to enter in with the ADCC, especially your competition. But sumo, let's talk about the 1996 Sumo World Championships. You get flown to the Taj Mahal in Atlantic City.
No. In 90, was it 96? I won the World Championships in Tokyo.
Oh, that was in Tokyo. Did you go up against Emmanuel Yarbrough in that?
Yarbrough in the final, yes, correct.
Emmanuel Yarbrough, I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. He was a junior college All-American, took second because he lost to Tom Erickson. In the UFC, had that cage door not opened with Keith Hackney, he would have won that fight. And just a phenomenal athlete. What was your experience with him?
Well, look, first of all, he was close to 7 foot tall and he weighed 700 pounds. That is no small man. So, I'll tell you the story. The day started with our little South African team, and each team was delegated a interpreter, to tell us when we had to go on to fight, because everything was in Japanese. We don't understand Japanese. Anyway, as the day progressed, I started winning my first fight, my second fight, my third fight. Anyway, by the time I got through to the final, he was now very keen and a coach to me. And he said to me, his advice to me was, Mark, son, no forward, side, meaning you can't take a guy on that's double your weight head on. You've got to move laterally. And that's exactly what I did. So, I was like the matador, and I put out my cape, and I moved out the way, and he charged, and he basically ran out the ring. And that's how I won my fight.
Emmanuel lost a few sumo matches that way, the few that I was able to find.
After that, yeah. But prior to that, he hadn't lost. He was the current world champion from the previous year.
What do you think about sumo rules as of today as compared to when you had participated?
Funny enough, I've because I'm interested in sumo, I've watched quite a lot of sumo on YouTube, and I see with these guys, they live in these stables, man, and the juniors are literally slaves to the more senior sumo players. They have to cook for them, wash their clothes, bath them, do all of those type of things. And I watched their grand nationals actually earlier on today. I was watching, and they're phenomenal. They're technically unbelievable. Their balance, their technique is just absolutely superb. What the Japanese size and strength they make up in technique and tenacity.
With slapping and headbutts being allowed, I'm kind of surprised it's not more popular.
Yeah, listen, the Japanese are also, they're very, they have a lot of integrity and honor, so when you win, if you display happiness and jump up and down and scream like they do when they score a goal or do a touchdown in American football, they don't like that. So, yeah, you can go and scream and shout back in the change room, but on the face in front of your opponent, you don't. Disrespectful. So I had to contain my excitement when I won.
So Elon Musk, obviously fellow South African, when he was on the Joe Rogan Experience, he had talked about on one of his birthdays being injured by a sumo wrestler. Was that you?
No, definitely not. No, it wasn't. No,
I figured it would have been. Do you know anything about that story?
No, I don't. I haven't heard anything.
Bad. Okay, that's fair.
Well,
So
I think some of the world strongmen like Eddie Hall and Brian Shaw have tried sumo wrestling as well. So also they're also big, strong guys, but they don't have any technique.
I think balance is everything. It's your hips and balance. Like you can lift really heavy things, but you got to also
keep your center of gravity. Those Japanese aren't tall people, so a lot of them are under 6 foot, and their center of gravity is really low. They open their legs wide and squat down into a squat and push forward, without losing balance. And essentially, that's the first basic skill of wrestling is position, holding your position, maintaining your position.
So, I think we got to put this in context also. In 1996, Emmanuel Yarbrough, he won 2 silver medals in 92 and 94, a bronze medal in 93, and a gold in 95. So when you beat Emmanuel Yarbrough, may have been at his sumo peak.
Yeah. And his heaviest he was, yeah.
Yeah, 700 pounds. He was a 700-pound, 6'8" gentleman. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. In 1997, you took silver. You lost to Ahmad Bally.
No. I lost to a Japanese. I never lost to any Egyptian.
Okay. Let's keep this in mind. All of my information is coming from online. So there's a lot of issues there. We're here to clean this up. So Ahmad Bally, he competed in the 2000 Olympics in Sydney in judo. You never lost to him.
No, definitely
Perfect.
Not.
Good.
Never
Excellent. Fought. Okay. And then in 1990
championships in 96, but I certainly didn't fight him after that, and I beat him. So
okay. All I can tell you is when I'm picking from online, YouTube comments, message boards, all of that stuff. And we're about to get into the ADC stuff. But prior to that, I've never covered sumo. I know nothing about the sport other than what I've grabbed online. 1999, Night of Giants, Trump Taj Mahal. Arguably speaking, this is the biggest sumo event ever to take place on United States soil. in regards to the competition. Paul Kingi was your first opponent.
Yeah, I think he was a New Zealander, if I remember correctly.
Well, he was a 1994 silver medalist in sumo, a defensive lineman from for USC. In 2005, he was sentenced to prison for manslaughter, accidentally killing his uncle. He's an interesting guy.
Yeah, I remember I beat him.
Oh, you beat everybody that night. Then you went on to fight.
I never lost the fight that night. Yeah.
Yeah. Jorg Brummer, 1998 heavyweight world champion. The movie Sumo Bruno was based on his life. He's Germany's head sumo coach since 2007. That's your second opponent.
Yeah. He was also, I think, a judoka as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
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 And I think I fought 3 Germans that night.
What, you got Torsten Schreiber, 6'7", 425 pounds. In 1998, he placed third right behind you. He won the world championships in 2001, 2005 at the open weight. So you're looking at a 2-time world champion.
He was, they called him the experiment. He was made out of from a test tube, yeah.
And then in the finals, it was champion versus champion. Bat-Erdene, the 1994 world champion. He's from Mongolia. It was a champ versus champ match. I'd say it was pretty cool watching it, but go ahead.
He was a similar weight to me. He was 130 kilos, which I was, I think, similar. And he was a good matchup for me. And he also was a judoka. I think he was an Olympic medalist in judo, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, it was a great matchup in the final. I think he beat that Torsten Schreiber as well.
Yes, he did.
Yeah. Because we had a round robin. We all had to fight each other for the winner. Yeah.
So you get a little bit of a name for yourself. I shouldn't say a little bit. People knew who you were, especially in the combat sports community. You get invited December 24th, 1999 to compete at the Abu Dhabi Combat Club in Abu Dhabi. How does the invite take place?
The invite took place because they invited champions from all the various grappling disciplines from across the world. So I think the Sheikh got hold of our government, and they, through our government, the president, they got hold of me and put me in touch with a guy called Guy Nevins, who was their liaison man. And he invited me to the World's Submission Wrestling Championships, ADCC. I think it was their second one. Yeah.
Let's kind of put this in context. Guy Nevins still with the company, still with ADCC.
ADCC will never leave.
No, he'll never leave. I'd say I dealt with him for a few years, around 2000, I think 2010. Fantastic experience. I had a really good experience with him. But ADCC at this time, it was kind of catering towards jiu-jitsu, particularly the Brazilians.
The rule set, everything was completely jiu-jitsu orientated. And I think that first ADCC, I think Rico Rodriguez won.
1998, yes, Rico Rodriguez won. So in 99, Yosuke Hiramatsu, he's a pro wrestler out of Pancrase. That's your first opponent. Your second opponent is a Carlson Gracie black belt, one of the strongest elements from his 80s and 90s team, Roberto Duarte. Roberto Duarte, absolute legend within the jiu-jitsu community.
Yeah, I remember him.
What was your feelings going into that?
Well, as I said, I hadn't been exposed to any of these guys. I didn't know anything about Brazilian jiu-jitsu. Obviously, I'd come from a judo and wrestling background. So to me, I just did my thing. And I think that was after my second fight. It was out of the quarterfinal or the semi-final. I was up to fight a guy called Sean Alvarez, I think.
Well, Sean Alvarez, just so everybody understands, 98, 99, 2000, silver. He took silver in ADCC. He's also a Henzo black belt and a UFC veteran.
Anyway, at the time, he was representing ADCC. He was coaching at the ADCC club. And funny enough, before that fight, I was sitting and I was about to go to the warm-up area, and one of the Sheikh Taknun's guys came to me and tried to bribe me to lose that fight, offered me $65,000. So I know this is going to ruffle a lot of people's feathers and I'm going to get a backlash, but this is exactly what happened. I was sitting next to my friend and training partner. His name's Willem Pitty. He's 13 times veterans freestyle wrestling champion, world champion. So I just went downstairs to Guy Nevens and I said to him, listen, if this is how you're going to run your tournament, then I'm not going to be part of it. And I took my things and I went back to the hotel. And the next morning he came to my room with a briefcase with $1 million in it and said to me, he has $10,000, which was the winning prize money. We're sorry, what happened? And that was it. Since then, they hated my name and hated me, and they never wanted to see me again. So,
did you throw that match against Sean Alvarez?
I left. I didn't fight.
Oh, it's down as the loss on your record.
No, I did not fight. They got some other guy to take my place. The guy who lost in the fight prior to mine, because there were two brackets, and he came in and fought. I think that Duarte, whatever his name was,
Duarte.
Yeah, so that was 99. So in 2001.
Wait a minute. No. We're not. There's no way. 2000 is insane. You got 2000, 2001. You also, that explains it. 99, you never went for third place and you didn't participate in the absolute.
No. So the long story is that after that, I got an invitation to go and live in America. I got offered a job at a big facility in Atlanta, Georgia, with
Tim Catalfo.
With Tim Catalfo.
Yeah.
And I went there, and after a few months, I was told that he went bankrupt, and he left and moved to Miami and left me there. And I only had a visa that was valid to work in his facility. So guess what? My family's there and I'm stranded. So I had to start finding another venue that I could train. So I used to work all morning doing personal training at a facility that I could use. And then at lunchtime, I'd meet, I had a Hungarian guy and his friends, Jorg, who had entered 4 Olympic Games. He was 13 times Hungarian national freestyle wrestling champion. And they were my training partners. And every lunchtime, they would work at a pizzeria and they'd come afterwards and we'd meet at this Kung Fu school that had a mat and train. And there was a Brazilian guy, his name was Ricardo Miguel. He coached me. He coached me in my jiu-jitsu. And he came with me to the ADCC in 2001. And we won it together. And I used the prize money to get home. And that was my story.
So Obake was just kind of there and gone. He wasn't a main trainer of yours?
No, he did nothing. They didn't train me at all. At the time, he had a lot of guys coming through the facility. There was that one Japanese fighter who I think he was fighting Ken Shamrock. And he came and trained at Obake a little bit. And at the time, my friend Willem, the wrestler, was there, and he wrestled him and murdered him. He was not very good at all. And then after that, the guy from Pride got hold of me, and Fujita, he was fighting in a Pride Grand Prix tournament against Ken Shamrock as well. So they flew me to LA, and I trained with Fujita exclusively, and they paid me to do that. So that's pretty much a bit of the background of my stay in America. And as I said, it culminated in me winning Abu Dhabi and having the money to come back home and move back to South Africa and do what I'm currently doing now.
So the person that trained with you, it was Atsuka, Alexander Atsuka?
Yes, correct.
Okay. All right. So I know Obake, we've had him on the show before. I know either people, he rubs you one way or the other.
Listen, you know, he's a very charming man. I think he was both freestyle and Greco-Roman national champion. A very talented man, but yeah, just not happy and carefree about life. Is he still alive? I'm surprised he's alive. I think he went to Tampa, Florida, I think.
He's living in Atlanta, Georgia.
He's back in Atlanta. Okay.
Yeah.
And what is he doing? He was a chiropractor.
He's a chiropractor, a very talented one, from what I understand. He owns a bar, a restaurant bar, sports bar.
Well, that makes sense. He had a little daughter called Tori. She was a little girl at the time. She must be, I mean, that was over 20 years ago. So she must be a big young woman now.
Yeah. March 1st, 2000, you go back to Abu Dhabi. How were those conversations leading into that?
Yeah, they weren't very nice and they were very hostile towards me. But you know what I mean? I did what I did and they paid me an appearance fee and I needed the money. So I went.
I'm surprised they asked you back again.
So am I, but they did.
Yeah.
I was trying to vindicate myself, and as I said, that's when I won in 2001.
Well, if you look at Lee Hasdale, that's your first opponent, British MMA pioneer. The guy's fought everybody. Like if you look at his MMA record, it's somebody that belongs on the show. He's fought Sperry, fought Vitor, amongst many, many other people.
Yeah, I think a lot of the guys were fighting in ADCC. Josh Barnett, I know that. Who's that? He was a light heavyweight UFC champion at that sort of era. Tito Ortiz, he entered. Matt Hughes fought.
Jeremy Horn, yeah.
Josh Barnett. So I know that Mark Kerr fought. Mark Coleman was supposed to come as well. I would have, if I'd beaten Sean Alvarez, I would have fought Mark Kerr in the final. So, yeah, that was one fight I really would love to have had.
After Lee Hasdale, you fought Ricardo Morias. It was a little bit controversial.
Yeah, because he got me in first of all, I went for he came in a double leg on me, and I supleed him, and he ripped both his pecs off, tore both pecs off. He never competed again after that ever, and he got me in a Achilles lock, and carried on and on and on and on and on, and eventually I just tapped out, and that was the end of that. I couldn't compete because he couldn't compete the next round, nor could I. So both of us were out of that tournament.
Was Obake with you at that tournament?
Yes, he was. He was in my corner there. Yeah.
Yeah, he claims that there was a little bit of an incident with him outside. Do you recall that?
With who? With
the guards, machine guns.
No.
He said that he was complaining quite a bit. You guys were pissed. They felt that you got screwed, and
listen, I felt that I was screwed over. But I mean that's irrelevant. There was no incident with any police or anything like that at all. That's a fabrication.
Okay. I will tell you that they're in these early ADCCs, and this is something that people administratively will never talk about. But the reality of the situation is there was a couple incidences at these early events where, was it Barclev? Barclev kind of did one of those screw you, and they were going to take his arm off, and they had to convince the prince not to do that because it would look bad to the general public and try to building the sport. They have not been back to ADCC out of fear that things like this, there's just too many moving parts. Things like that might happen.
Well, I was there and I witnessed that fight. He was fighting the guy from Brazil. Morias was cornering him, and they started getting a bit heated and slapping, and it started becoming into probably like a mixed martial arts fight. And they told him to calm down. Anyway, he turned around to the chief who was sitting in the audience, and he gave him a zap sign. So of course the police came on in mass and took him off. And we heard that went straight to his apartment, put his wife and kid on the very first plane after that, and they shipped him into the desert for 3 weeks and locked him in a hole. That's what happens when you go against the sheik, eh?
Yes.
After this, I'll never go back to the UAE, eh? I'll get locked up immediately for sure, because they're going to be very upset with what I've said. Yeah.
Well, I know a person, they asked for me not to use their name, that was in the conversations of them saying, we know he gave you the finger. We know it's very disrespectful. We know it was in public, but to cut his arm off would draw international issues in regards to yourself in this event.
Yeah. Well, there was another guy, Sasha, also a freestyle wrestler.
Sasha from Russia.
Yeah. He fought Nino Shambari, and he caught him in a omoplata, and his shoulder was literally sitting where his elbow is. That's how badly it was dislocated. So, you know, there were lots of these incidents happening at the time. I know Jeff Munson, they hated Jeff Munson and me because we weren't Brazilian jiu-jitsu players. And yeah, in the 2003 ADCC in Brazil, he was fighting one of Royce Gracie's students in one of the fights, I think in Absolute, and they robbed him blind. He took his pants and underpants off and threw them at the refs and stormed off and also left in a cab and went to the airport and went home. So, you know, these things happened.
You know, when you want to say, I've done everything as a fan of the sport and mixed martial arts, seeing a Jeff Monson naked protest is one of the boxes you have to check because he's done it several times.
Oh, yeah. No, not happy.
No.
Not the last thing you want to see, yeah?
And it's not impressive.
Maybe
on
a
top
woman
of
likes
that.
to see it as well as guys, huh?
You know, I was married at the time. My wife at the time saw a naked protest, and she literally said, you know, he should cover that thing. It's that's something he should hide. You know, it's that not he shouldn't be showing that off. So
Definitely
either
not
right. So Ricardo Morias, you had issues there. You start your MMA journey August 26, 2000. You fight in the WEF. Do you remember the promoter Jamie Levine?
I do remember him very clearly. So we went to North Carolina to fight in the NAGA championships in the December of 2000. And again, I fought one of Renzo Gracie's brown belts in one of the fights. And I got to the final, and the final was me against Jeff Munson, funny enough, as well. And off we went. And yeah, I beat him there, and they robbed me blind again. So yeah, there's been I got vindicated by beating him in the April of the next year when I fought him in Abu Dhabi again.
Well, Jamie Levine and his show, the WEF, Joe Leva, you beat him with the neck crank.
Yeah, I did.
You beat him. Jamie, kind of a notorious early days promoter.
I wonder, is he still around or not?
No, he's gone.
No, I'm sure he's gone a long time ago.
Yeah, he
I said to him, you pay me first up front before I do anything with you. So I made him pay me the money for the fight before I went.
We gave you the impression that there might be some issues with payment.
Well, I think you've got a sixth sense of what people are like, and I could see he was a smooth talking con man. So that's why I made him pay me cash. And I said, I'm not going. In fact, that morning he sent someone with cash to me. Otherwise, I no ways would have gone. Because I know he wouldn't have paid me a Zach. And a lot of the fighters left after the fight and didn't pay them. Left them high and dry.
He had
that same card. James Culver fought on that same card. Pat Militich's guy. And I think quite a few of the guys were fighting.
He had a phenomenal eye for talent.
Frank, he fought in the welterweight. It was Frank Trigg. He fought as well on that court. The guy who painted his toenails. Frank Trigg.
I will tell you that Jamie Levine had an incredible eye for talent. Possibly one of the premier promoters here in the United States in terms of like understanding who's who and who to bring over. I will tell you that I'm pulling up the card right now. Oh, I can't draw it. I'll tell you, like, he went out with a bang. Like, you obviously, you said two names. Are they still alive? Both guys that were burning the candles at both ends, at least at one point or another. And yeah, he became a registered sex offender, and then I think he had a heart attack and died.
Jamie Levine.
Yes.
Jeez. Well, no wonder. Doesn't surprise me, Mark. Doesn't surprise me.
You know, he passed the story of, it was, I met her at a bar. It was all the classic predatory type excuses.
Yeah.
But I in a past interview, I don't want to say which one, I kind of had a back and forth in regards to it. I saw the court transcripts. It was an investor's daughter. So, yeah, I mean, No, not a good guy. UFC 30, February 23rd, 2001. You fought a guy that was on all the drugs, and that's Bobby Hoffman.
Bobby Hoffman, correct. That was UFC 32, I think.
Okay. What was your recollection of Bobby Hoffman?
Well, my recollection was I was only given a week's notice, and I was desperate for the money. It was before I even went to ADCC that year and won. That was a month later. I think it was in the February, somewhere there. I think Peter Ortiz was the headline that card. And
UFC 30.
Yeah.
It was 30.
And Pedro Hizo fought as well on that card, I think. And it was declared a no contest because he was on whatever drugs he was taking. So they still owed me a fight in UFC, 2 fights actually, out of contract. But at that time, after I won ADCC, I just wanted to come back home and regroup and start my life again here in South Africa.
You had a couple. You had Phil Baroni was on that card.
Correct.
Igor Zinoviev pulled off of the card. I know he always had a bad back. Pedro Hizo fought Josh Barnett. Jens Pulver, Kyle Uno. Elvis Sinosek beat Jeremy Horn that event. Yeah, that was kind of a legendary night. Yeah.
Yeah. So, that's my recollection of that evening. It was quite a thing in my memory.
Yeah.
I'd love to have a rematch. I don't know, is he still alive? He's probably in jail as well. Because I know that Phil Barone, he was also for sex offensive. He beat his girlfriend or killed his girlfriend, something like that, his wife or whatever the case was.
Yeah, he's important.
So
and not only did he beat her up, as soon as he got there, the guards all jumped on him and they beat the teeth out of him. He's toothless right now in a Mexican prison. Yeah, he's in a Mexican prison.
Not surprising, him, Jamie Levine, and Tim Katafa, they're all the same. Same cut from the same cloth.
So Bobby Hoffman, I've been trying to track him down for almost 2 years. I've even paid like the name finders, the 99-cent phone finders. I don't know where he's at. I'm assuming he's homeless in California or in a grave with no name on it.
I wouldn't be surprised. I think he played American football for one of the teams, the Bengals or one of them.
I don't know. Yeah, I couldn't tell you. You had 7 days prior to that fighting. You were training with Obake, obviously, at that time. It's correct. The same building that you won the World Sumo Championship.
Yes, correct. Exactly right. Correct. So yeah, one was a memorable night, and the other one wasn't.
Right. April 11, 2001, you go back to ADCC. Valeriy Yureskul. He's got international judo experience. It's judoka versus judoka. Interesting matchup.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I caught him in a head and arm triangle. And I whispered in his ear, "Bye-bye, baby." Because he was going purple. Yeah.
Especially with your squeeze, too, with your powerlifting background. That must not have been fun.
Well, I mean, it's all about leverage, you know. So you circle your body and you press the deltoid into the one carotid artery and your biceps on the other side, and you squeeze them together. So that's an opposing direction squeeze. And there's a lot of circuitry in your neck, carotid arteries, jugular veins, trachea, your airway. So all that gets compressed and you go to sleep, or you can't breathe. Tap, snap, or nap.
Right. Your second match, Vitor Belfort. I'm surprised you got the win on this match.
Yeah, he was probably the hardest fight that I've ever had. And, you know, he came to me before the fight and tried to tell me I mustn't hurt him because he was fighting in Prague the next week. And, you know, so Ricardo Miguel, obviously from Brazil, he said to me, "Don't listen to that crap. He's going to come at you like a bat out of hell," which he did. So, you know, that was it. I actually, after the full time, I think it was 20 minutes, when I went back to the corner, my eyes were glazed over. I was glass. I was finished. And Ricardo said to me, "Now you need to fight for your family and dig deep and pull something out of the hat," which I did. And then he hit the wall. I saw his eyes go glass, and I knew I would beat him. And that's how that match went.
Okay, so we had mentioned that the Sheiks at this time were really catering to the Brazilians. They really were. And Vitor Belfort, when people say, "Well, you don't know that, you don't know that," at this tournament, Vitor Belfort had 7 matches. 7 matches, and he lost. Like, you beat him.
Yeah, he also fought in the absolute. I think he fought Rico Rodriguez in his first fight. So what they did to Jeff, I just finished fighting Vitor. Then I fought the final fight.
No, it's Rico Rodriguez prior to that.
Rico Rodriguez, sorry. So that
let me set this up. So Rico Rodriguez, just so everybody understands this isn't, Mark snuck in, he got a medal at an early ADCC, because some weight classes you can say that. This guy fights a guy in the Olympic ladder for judo, the hottest name in the UFC in Vitor Belfort, and then he fights a guy that took 1998 gold medal, 99 silver medal, 2000 bronze medal, Enrico Rodriguez.
Yeah.
That's your third match. You got one more.
Yeah, then I fought Jeff Munson in the final, and we fought for 30 minutes. And it was a really tight match, which they gave to me, fortunately, on advantages. And they wanted me to fight in the very first fight of the absolute, straight afterwards. So to go from the mat. So, you know, Ricardo Miguel went to them and said, "Listen, can't they let us fight, Jeff and I, at the end of the round, which would have taken about half an hour, just to give us some recovery time?" And they said, "No, if we're not fighting, we're out." So that was it. That was the $40,000 prize money gone.
Well, let me talk about Rico Rodriguez. Well, here, you beat Rico Rodriguez. How difficult was that fight for you?
I didn't find him a difficult fight at all, Mark. You know, I didn't find his wrestling of any stature. You know, I was quite surprised because he was training with Mark Kerr at the time, and I thought his wrestling would be a lot better than it was. In fact, I stood on one leg and gave him my leg for a single leg, and he couldn't take me down. That's how confident I was. And that's the fight. Yeah.
So now your finals, Jeff Monson, 1999 gold, 2000 silver, 2001 silver, 2005 gold. That's who you're meeting in the finals.
Yeah.
You can make an argument that he belongs in the ADCC Hall of Fame.
No, there's no argument. But you know who his coach was? Matt Hume. You know who Matt Hume is?
Matt Hume is a genius.
Yeah, he coaches Demetrius Johnson and Josh Barnett. He's got a whole string of martial artists that have fallen under him. And him and I became quite friends. Anyway, he wasn't there to corner Jeff Munson. So do you know corner Jeff Munson for that final fight? Charles Sonnen. And as you know, he's got a mouth bigger than him. And he mouthed off the whole fight. So I said to him, why don't you come on the mat and fight me? So yeah, he was 21 years old. Yeah.
Nothing changes.
He was part of the same wrestling team as Jeff Munson. They came from a wrestling background, so they knew each other through the wrestling.
They're from the same general area, the Pacific Northwest. So just so everybody knows, Matt Hume, Dennis Hallman, there's about a dozen people that guy has brought from white belt to black belt, or first fight to the UFC. In my opinion, probably one of the top 3 trainers ever to live here in the United States, ever.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Well, you win the gold, you get your money. How is the relationship with ADCC after this? Did this heal some of the past wounds?
No. I'll never forget what they did to me. And, you know, as I said, I was grateful that I had the money to get back home. And, yeah, that was it. In actual fact, subsequent to that, I took a team over to fight in 2012 in Newark, New Jersey. And I took a South African team over there to compete. So
wow.
That's when I saw Garden Evans again, and he told me he was going to leave and not work for the Sheik anymore. He said it was killing him. It was a 24-hour-a-day job, and he couldn't do it anymore. So, yeah, that didn't happen. He's still there.
Yeah, he's still there. Wow.
They kept buying him another house, offering him another watch and a this and a that and a car and a boat and whatever else. Because I think he's still married. He's got kids.
Yeah, he does. He does. I don't know much about him other than I had a couple really good dealings with him.
His father was with him as well.
Worked for the Prince. His father, I think, worked for the father of Taknoon, and he and Taknoon have been friends since childhood, from what I gather.
Well, you know that Taknoon's he was at university in America with
San Diego.
In San Diego with Guy, and they started jiu-jitsu together. That's how their whole interest in the sport started.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Hey, do you know, you had mentioned Sean Alvarez living over in Abu Dhabi, being one of the main coaches. Another guy, we just interviewed him, Charlie Kohler, gave us a whole bunch of stories in his interview, because he was one of the people living over there with Alvarez. Alvarez was there prior to him.
Yes. Because there's a Bulgarian guy, he's the head ref. I don't know what his name is.
Lubomir Guedjev.
Yeah, and when I did the South African trials here, he came and stayed here. I got him accommodation, a hotel, and all the rest. So, yeah.
So Lubo and I still stay in touch. He actually promotes the bare knuckle fighting championship in Bulgaria.
Okay. Yeah, he was a nice guy.
Yeah, I hooked him up with that. Yeah.
He's still living in Dubai.
He moved back to Sofia. He's in Sofia, Bulgaria now.
All right.
He was in town about 7 months ago. He stayed at my place. I introduced him to Chicago deep dish. So slept on your couch, he slept on my couch.
Okay. Yeah.
He's just one of those guys you get along with. In 2003, at the Abu Dhabi in Sao Paulo, it was looked at as like the Gracie homecoming. Like this was like they were coming back to Brazil with the ADCC, and across the board, it was maybe it was just a partying prior, but it just no one talks about it. But they across the board they got wrecked, including Hoyler, obviously with Eddie Bravo.
Yeah, also Roger Gracie, I think he beat Mario Spira that particular tournament. And Mark Kerr fought Almeida. What's his name?
Ricardo Almeida. Yeah.
Not Almeida. Is it Almeida? He was a light heavyweight. He fought in Pride. He fought Quinton Jackson. He got knocked out. He put a triangle choke on Quinton Jackson. Quinton Jackson picked him up in the air and dumped him on his head and knocked him out. They bumped heads.
Oh, come on. Ricardo Arona.
Ricardo Arona. That was his name. Ricardo Arona.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was in São Paulo. And yeah, that was where Jeff Munson took his pants off and threw them at the ref.
Yeah. One of the many times.
I fought one of Mark Hume's students, funny enough, in one of the fights. And I fought
Reese Andy.
I fought Michael, the wrestler, man, the American wrestler, freestyle wrestler. He was an Olympian. He started the trained at the
You talk about Reese Andy.
No. He knew Obake as well. He fought in Brazil. He was tall, lank. He was a colored, I think he was half black. He had a black in him. He was a mix. Mark van Osdale.
One more time?
Mark van Osdale.
Mike Van Arsdale. Yeah, of course. It's your other opponent. Yes. That's who you started with, Mike Van Arsdale.
Yeah. So
he was with the Raw team. I didn't know he trained with Matt Hume.
Yeah. He trained with all of them. Anyway,
I did not know that.
I had him. I took him down. I think I took him down 3 times, Mark, and they never gave me a score. So at the end of it, they gave him the score because they said he was lighter than me. So that was my first fight. Then I fought in the absolutes, and I fought that guy from Matt Hume.
Reese Andy.
Same thing happened there.
And just so everybody understands who Reese Andy is, he's a 3-time All-American Division I wrestler. In 94, he took second. 95, he took sixth. 96, he took second. I mean, he's D1 with those types of credentials you're looking at an all-star on the all-star team.
Yeah. So, yeah, that was my experience in 2003. In actual fact, I went and stayed in Brazil for 3 weeks. I left my family and I went over there. I stayed at Ricardo Miguel's place in Porto Alegre, and I trained at Morias school and at Ricardo school with all the students. So it was the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world champion. His name is Paradera. He trained with me and helped me as well. He lost to Kakaraka in the final of the Brazilian ADCC trials of that year. So it was very good training and a very good experience. In actual fact, from there, I had a relationship with Ricardo. I brought fighters over because I promoted some mixed martial arts shows down in South Africa. And we had fighters from Brazil coming over here, which was great.
That's cool. That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
So you've won powerlifting world titles. You've won a sumo wrestling world title. And you've won an obviously submission grappling world title. Yes. How do you power rank those?
I think for me, my first world championships was in Pescara, Italy, in 1990 when I won the World Powerlifting Championships. That's probably the highlight of my sporting career. And then obviously the sumo was second, and then third was the ADCC World Submission Wrestling Championships. One. Yeah.
I tell you what, had you been allowed to compete in the Olympics, you beat the bronze medalist, you could have been a judo world champion as well.
I believe that myself, yeah, absolutely. My grandfather was a Cumberland wrestling world champion from the north of England. So I've got his Cumberland wrestling. He's got a Lonsdale belt, which is hung up in my office here. Pretty cool.
And what are you doing now?
I still teach. I've just turned 61. I'm 61 years old, or young, as you want to put it. And I teach. I do personal training. I do warrior or strength conditioning with clients, and I do grappling. I teach. I taught this morning. I've got classes every day.
That's incredible.
So that's what I do for a living, and I love it. When you love something, you never work another day in your life. Eh?
Yeah.
So I'm blessed and happy to. I've got a daughter of turning 34 this year, and my wife passed away, and I'm about to get married to a very beautiful girl. I'm very blessed.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. I'd say, Mark, in regards to like history, usually guys that are way in the past are people that might be footnotes or people might have questions about them. To me, it's surprising that you don't get more credit.
Well, we're on the bottom of the world here. We're right in the southern hemisphere, tip of the southern hemisphere, way out of the mix of Europe and America. So I'm not surprised. And the time changed too. I mean, what, it's like 5 o'clock here now. What is the time there? What do you
Right now it's 10 a.m.
Yeah, there we go. So it's very different. So we're living in different planets, man.
Yeah, we really are. So Duplessis, his winning the world title, how much of an impact have you noticed it socially in the sport, your school, as it helped?
Massive impact, Mark. You must remember that we've won the World Rugby World Cup. And it unites us as people in South Africa. It gives us hope. It gives us motivation to carry on in and amongst all the problems that we're having in this country at the moment, politically. So, guys like Drickus, it's fantastic. It's really an awesome, awesome thing. And I'm so happy for him that at 30 years old now, he's got to the pinnacle of the sport and he's making money and making a name for himself. Everyone wants to have him on their show. He was on CNN, by the way, I think yesterday.
Well, I can tell you, pre-fight, you got to sell a fight. You have to. And when you're dealing with a guy like Sean Strickland, you can't compete with him in regards to what's coming out of his mouth. And if you try to compete with him, it's not going to be good. And it happened. It happened with Drickus when he mentioned about his father, and I'm going to beat you worse than your father. And I do not know this because nobody said it to me. But if you look at the pre-fight and how everything went down, Drickus absolutely called him and said, hey, dude, trying to sell it. I apologize. And it was a sincere apology because Strickland, when Drickus was getting the heat from the audience, Strickland killed it. And yeah. I don't think he should have. I think he should have kind of continued letting it go. But whatever Drickus said to him, it absolutely it stopped everything in its tracks. And it tells you what kind of character he has.
So, Drickus is a very nice guy. He speaks, he doesn't swear and carry on. He's got integrity, and it comes across. A lot of people don't like that. They want to have the bad guy swearing and carrying on. They want to have the Conor McGregor or the Sean O'Malley. That's the type of fighters they like. They get all the money and the popularity.
The fight in the audience between the two of them, phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. It made me buy it. I mean, I buy them all, but it made me excited for it.
They kill each other in the ring. They want to tear each other's heads off.
Yeah, on the business side, it was. I really enjoyed it. And Drickus, I think his biggest asset is his timing and his ability to throw his opponents off when understanding it. And man, I'm really glad that he walks into your gym on occasion.
Yeah, look, I think people don't realize that Drickus walks around at 102 kilos, which is close to 225 pounds in American terms. He's a big, strong, athletic boy. And they find it hard to deal with his power, as Robert Whittaker found out. I think when Drickus got hold of him, he thought, oh my God, he shat himself. So, that's what happens.
Yeah.
They want him to fight Israel Adesanya now in UFC 305, I think, in June or July in Sydney, Australia. So that's going to be a humdinger. You can imagine.
Absolutely.
The real champion's coming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Mark, I'm going to be honest with you. It's an absolute pleasure. Like, I've read your name. I can't explain to you how many times I've asked a lot of people and how you were described. He was one of the throwback guys, the freaks that they brought in from like other sports, and he came in and wrecked everybody. You're one of the last of the throwbacks.
Thank you. I appreciate those kind words.
Thank you so much for your time, Mark.
Thank you for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. This will be dropped in a couple of weeks. I'll make sure
we'll keep in touch.
Absolutely. I'm going to send you a link when this drops, and I hope to share it on your social media. Thank you, sir.
I will. Thank you so much, Mark. Thank you for
Take
having me.
care.
Cheers. Have a good
Bye-bye.
evening. Bye.
In essence, this guy, Mark Robinson, our Instagram sucks. I'm just going to be very direct in regards to that. We need help. We actually need a producer for Instagram, a producer for YouTube, and somebody to help handle our Spotify and iTunes. So this guy, Zach Sparkman from Tennessee Judo, sent me a message. Hey, man, I like the podcast. Would you mind looking into Mark Robinson? And in, like right then and there, I'm like, wait a minute. Like I've read this guy, read this guy's bio about 1,000 times, and it's just like, yeah. So we hooked it up. A lot of my Jew information came from Zach. I would have been lost without it, so it's greatly appreciated. On top of that, I need you to like, share, and subscribe. If you guys don't like, share, and subscribe this, we can't grow. And I'm going to be honest with you, like our numbers are starting to look pretty good in regards to our viewership. And it's pretty exciting. Like we're starting to get above that 600 number on our drops just on iTunes and Spotify. And anything over like 150 is actually really, really good. So if you guys can leave us iTunes reviews, if you guys can kind of just participate a little bit on our YouTube, there he is right there. What's up, Zach?
Howdy, can you hear me?
Yeah, we got you. Dude, what'd you think, man?
Okay. I loved it. I got chills at the beginning.
So Zach, for everybody, he's out of Tennessee. He's obviously at work right now. We're not going to say the company, but he's the one that helped me out with all the sumo stuff. And I mean, truth be told, like I thought of like watching those old sumo matches. Zach, I'm kind of surprised it's not more popular.
I know. I think it's just been there is a semi-pro company that's coming into America that's trying to up the production level. I'm hoping that with them or maybe even another company that will help. I think just getting the exposure on social media will be a big thing. Get people to know the history of it in America, because America actually has a pretty deep history of sumo that people just don't really know about, especially not to the mass public. They've never been exposed to it. But to me, it's crazy as well, because I grew up watching MMA and doing jiu-jitsu, and I started off in catch wrestling, jiu-jitsu, but I've always loved sumo. There was just no avenue for me to go into it that I knew of, and it wasn't until I was 28 years old or so that I even found out that they were doing it in America.
Well, and the matches are like 10 seconds, and there's like a lot of tradition in regards to it. Like they have to show they have no weapons to each other. And it just kind of tells you like, well, like where that comes from is from hundreds and hundreds of years ago. This isn't something that just took place like within the last 10, 15. And I think it just might need to be modernized.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought it's pretty badass, dude.
It is. And I think too, the big thing is the mawashis. So many people think that it's a diaper. It's actually a single cloth. And it's a pretty long one. Mine actually fills up an entire duffel bag. So it's pretty interesting. Yeah. Because whenever you were saying that it fits in a Ziploc bag, most people don't know that you have to wrap it around multiple times. It's about maybe a fourth of an inch thick whenever you wrap it all through. I mean, it's pretty thick. Mine's like 20 pounds at least.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you guys are diehard listeners of this podcast, we'll let you try on Zach's sumo outfit.
If you watch the World Championships that's on YouTube, they show the mawashis. Emmanuel Yarbrough rolls his out, and I would guess probably about 50 feet long. I mean, it is a very long mawashi.
Holy shit, dude! Emmanuel Yarbrough, man, I really wish that guy was still alive. I really do.
I just missed that time period. I came in later on into sumo, and it's heartbreaking to not get to see the legends, and then for them to not be honored the way they should be. I'm hoping that if I can gain enough influence in the sumo community, that eventually we could do a foreign born or, an outside of Japan sumo Hall of Fame, even if it's just a small building, with a gym next to it, something like that, a way to bring in the culture, to the rest of the world. Because before World War II, there was around 2,000 sumo wrestlers in America. And World War II, it was outlawed.
Oh, because of
It's considered emperor worship. It's part of the ritual. So it's a Shinto religion. And so it was banned because they were considered as Japanese sympathizers.
People always talk about like the concentration camps here in the United States that we held the Japanese in, and obviously not good. But what they fail to mention is the internment camps that Japan had with Americans and everybody else that was in it. And cannibalism. Oh, dude, like if whatever took place here, it was all you got to do was just read a history book and look at both sides rather than just one, because like you got to kind of look at the time for what it is rather than put your nice rosy colored glasses on from your nice suburban estate and tell me about what they shouldn't have done in World War II. That's like
it's just like with the atom bomb, the Purple Hearts they still give away were ones they had already made during World War II that they were planning on giving out to families if we had to keep fighting the Japanese before they had the atom bomb developed. So they're all of them that are still given away till today are from World War II.
Wow. So Zach, I thought it was a pretty good interview. He definitely opened up, especially on some of the darker sides of the sport. So when I've always kind of looked at his record and gone, okay, man, this checks back. That could get a good story. This could get a good story. And, he didn't hold back. He let us know. I mean, he let us know what it was. I mean, his career in the sport of mixed martial arts wasn't a big one, or, Abu Dhabi, he had 3 appearances. That's not a huge amount, but what we got from it was amazing. Yeah.
And another thing too is in his sumo career, he got second place at Worlds as well. The only person who beat him that year ended up becoming Ozeki, which is the highest rank you can get without basically like it's the highest one you can earn, because Yokozuna you can meet all the qualifications and still be denied it. So the people who there's an association who votes on it. And it actually happened with an American. The very first American to get to Ozeki was a guy named Konishiki, and he's actually in Tokyo Drift. The big guy's in the jacuzzi with the tattoo on the shoulder. His name is Konishiki. He was the first ever Ozeki from America, and they denied him the Yokozuna position from him being foreign born, even though he qualified. So to get to even that rank it's an insane procedure to get to even Ozeki. And but that's the only guy who beat him in I think it was the 97 Worlds. So
that's very cool. Well, Zach, man, dude, your notes, you carrying over, like I was able to handle the MMA and ADCC stuff, but the, sumo information you gave it to me and how you gave it to me, absolutely perfect. You put as much love into it as I do, and greatly appreciate it, man.
Oh, it's no problem. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, fuck yeah, dude. Please share this, ladies and gentlemen, this guy right here. If you got a friend in the sport or some shit, get a hold of us, man. Be like Zach. Thanks, buddy. Hey, and I'll see you at the Olympia. You'll be at the Olympia in November, right?
Yes, I will be. Yep. I'll be competing. I'm going to Japan. I'm going to Japan in May. Yeah. So hopefully that will carry over into the Olympia, that training.
Kick ass. Cool. All right, dude, I'll see you in November at the Olympia. Take care, buddy.
See you then. Have a good day.
Bye.
Check out the full interview on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms.